Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome in to another edition of the Big Man on Campus podcast. Hope you're having a great Monday, April 22nd, 2019. A lot to get to today. We get some MLB, some NHL playoffs, some NBA playoffs, all sorts of stuff to get to here in just a little bit. I hope you had a great Easter weekend, Passover weekend, whatever it is you celebrate. Hope you had a great weekend. Do me a favor, hit the like button here as we get this show going here. Also, if you're on Twitter, please retweet the show. Very much helpful. Would love if you guys could do that for me. Always something that is a thank you when you do it. So take care of that for me, and we will get after some things today. Andrew McGinnis is going to join us. We'll talk to him in about 20 minutes. He'll come on to talk some NBA and NHL. Maybe we'll get Loshak. He'll talk some MLB. Going to try to get Loshak on as much as we can. We're going to try to nail down a schedule here so people know when he's going to come on. He's traveling right now, so home to New York where he lives. So you guys know with New York traffic, sometimes it can be tough. So we're not always able to get him on every day, but I'm hoping going forward we can nail down some sort of schedule. That way we know Peter will be on certain days. Obviously, we will be getting a new sponsor. We had to sponsor MyBookie. We had them really till the end of college hoops, which they were very helpful. I know a lot of you took advantage of that. We're going to start something new here pretty soon. So obviously keep a lookout for that. Something I think people will definitely like. Hopefully we can get guys like Ski Profit on the show and other content as well. So we'll have an NFL draft podcast going out today. It'll be out tonight, so make sure you check that out. Plenty of sleepers and props and all sorts of ways that you can make money. A couple of things here today. Quickly, baseball. We do have a rain out, which sucks because the game that is rained out was one that I had some interest in, which was that Detroit-Baltimore game. Not Detroit-Baltimore, Detroit-Boston. Really liked that one. I was going to look towards maybe an under, but that game ended up getting canceled, so we don't have to worry much about it now. A game that I definitely liked, though, is I'm starting to like this. I liked it, obviously, last night as well. I did Greg Peterson's podcast. Obviously, I'd recommend listening to that, the MLB Overtime Betting Edition. I know Greg puts that out every day. I mentioned I like Pittsburgh, and I still do. Pittsburgh is playing pretty well this year. Their pitching staff is the best in baseball. They haven't been a great offensive team, but they definitely have some pop, like what I've seen out of Joe Musgrove this year. He's been very good so far, and you're getting a guy in Zach Godley that has not been good. He's been horrific, frankly. This is a bad rotation that just really can't get anyone out right now. And look, while their offense is good, this is a road game. It's on the East Coast. I think this is a decent enough price to still back Pittsburgh. You can bet them around 135 right now. A little high for my liking. I don't love anything above 130. I try to kind of turn it into a run line or something. But, in this case, I don't hate a first 5 minus a half either. I think that's a pretty nice play. I really kind of like what I'm seeing out of Musgrove. His whip is low. Not only is he not giving any runs up, he's not even putting people on base. 21 strikeouts over 22 innings. He held the Reds at 3 hits over 7 innings in his last start. I really like what I've seen out of Joe Musgrove. I think he's kind of turning into one of those really dependable arms. And from what we've seen out of Godley, I just really don't have much interest in him right now. A couple comments. We got some people in here joining the show. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to send them in. NFL draft, who's your team going to take? Any questions you have, feel free to send them in. You have a question on the transfer market and basketball, whatever you want to talk about, I am an open book as always. Feel free to send them in. A couple of people in here: Aaron, Fulton, Underdog, Melvin, Demetrius, Alex, Sheragon, Alex Wander, William, Kevin, Mike, Dennis, Blake, R.S. Jacobs, what's happening? Red Girl's in here. What's up, Red Girl? Red Girl likes the Phillies in the first five. Definitely an interesting one. Phillies making the trip up to Citi Field to take on the New York Mets. Look, Jake Arrieta's actually been quite good this season. Look, for what Aaron Nola's been doing, like if Jake Arrieta could somehow give you a good season, that would be really helpful. Look, you always know that the Phillies offense is going to give you something. Steven Matz, he started to hit kind of a wall a little bit. That Mets pitching staff's hit a little bit of a wall. I don't disagree with you, Red Girl here. Maybe keeping up with this Jake Arrieta train right now. It's been a pretty good one. That middle of the Phillies lineup has been RBI City so far. Still, obviously, without with Maikel Franco in there, kind of having him move up in the lineup a little bit. You kind of liked him at the bottom, but with some of their injuries right now, I don't hate that pick. A couple comments. What do you think about Chris Archer? I think Chris Archer's terrific. Liked him at Tampa, like him in Pittsburgh now. What's up, Dennis? What do you think about the Phillies? Just went over that one. What do the Redskins do to address QB1? It wouldn't surprise me if they try to move up. I think they definitely have to take a quarterback. I actually have them taking Drew Lock at 15. I think Drew Lock will be there. I think if they want a quarterback, I don't think they have to move up. It depends of who do they want as their quarterback. Is it Daniel Jones? I don't think Daniel Jones is a first-round pick personally. I don't have him in my first round, but I do believe that the Redskins will get a quarterback. I think it's something they must do. We all know Alex Smith just isn't very dependable. I mean, you've been skirting around. Really, you look at the Giants and the Redskins, you've really been skirting around a quarterback for a long time. I mean, at what point are you going to address the quarterback situation? I thought I would ask, why do you bet NBA if you don't cap it a lot, like you've said before? Because it's the playoffs. That's why. The playoffs are much different, which I really don't have to explain to you why I do that. In the regular season, I don't think there's much that needs to go into capping. I think the playoffs, there's a lot of really good statistical, situational kind of spots. I've noticed with you, you're always very particular as to what I do. Start asking questions that actually make sense. We've talked about that before. I cap it in the I like NBA playoffs because I think, again, there's a lot of situational trends, a lot of things you can kind of, the zigzag theories and things like that. Do I see any big trades in the top five? Jets want to move, but I don't think they do. I think it's all about some of these teams that maybe want to get into the top five and think they need to. I think obviously some throwing a wrench into everything is if, somehow the Cardinals pass on Kyler Murray. I don't think they will. But are you really willing to give up on Josh Rosen so quick? I mean, you just took him last year. You moved up to get him. I think it's definitely interesting. But look, I've talked about it. I think Kyler Murray could be really successful in certain systems. Obviously, if it's Cliff Kingsbury's system, I think that would work. So again, I think they will take Murray, but it definitely would be interesting to see if they don't take him, how that kind of screws things up. Because if they don't take him, they'll take Bosa. It's that simple. We'll get to some NBA and NHL in just a little bit. Andrew McGinnis will join us. I like the Astros on the run line. Good bounce back spot. I mean, I think yesterday you definitely were kind of skirted a little bit with the Astros. They made that big comeback and then ended up losing anyway. But Jake Odorizzi hasn't been great this season. He has been a good strikeout pitcher, though. I'm kind of numb on the Astros right now. I'm not really running the bet on them right now. I like the Duke quarterback. Yep, Daniel Jones. Look, definitely, I think a guy that will fit in this new NFL, but just not a guy I had in the first round. I think he's definitely really impressive. Good player. Definitely has the ability to run. He's got good size. He's pretty fast, frankly. I mean, 4.81 is quite fast for a quarterback. For me, he reminds me a bit too much of Ryan Tannehill. I think he's obviously slightly better just because he has the ability to throw the ball. He's not a great thrower. Doesn't have great arm talent, really, to me. Can he make the throws that you need to make as a quarterback in the NFL? I'm just not overly sure of that. I would take him in the second round. I think reaching on him in the first is a bit much. I also think from watching some of the stuff that I've seen from Daniel Jones, I think he's a bit too quick to run. I don't think he stays in the pocket a bit long enough, which is something that a lot of these guys that run around and stuff. It's kind of one of the knocks on them. Sometimes they leave the pocket a bit too quick, a little bit too much bravado, as they say, to move around. That's just kind of my take on him. I think he's a good player, and I think he'll do some things at the next level. But I don't feel that he's a top 32 pick. What else do we have here? Dudley trying to ruffle the Sixers feathers. He tried to. He did, but it didn't matter. I can't wait. By the way, there will be no show tomorrow, guys. Might try to do a Periscope, but I'm actually going to go down to the game, so I will not be here. So we probably won't have a show on YouTube. We might have some sort of Periscope or something, but again, no show tomorrow night. We'll be back on Wednesday. Gil Brandt compared Daniel Jones to Peyton Manning. That's ridiculous. Gil Brandt's a kind of a moron, so that's not a surprise to me. Any other baseball tonight? I don't know. I mean, Jack Flaherty's always interesting. A bit too high of a price there for that one. Mike Minor against Oakland. Mike Minor's been very good. I think he's kind of auditioning for other teams. I've heard obviously they're probably interested in moving Mike Minor. I know the Phillies have had some interest. I think maybe this could be one of those sneaky unders. Bassett's actually been pretty good strikeout to walk ratio. Obviously Happ against Harvey. This line kind of smells, doesn't it? Yankees, basically in a pick 'em against Matt Harvey, who has been horrific. This is, I think, one of those games where it kind of makes sense for April. You got a team in the Yankees who obviously, they have the lineup, but we have to remember, I mean, this isn't your typical Yankee lineup. There are so many injuries with this group right now. It's not even funny. Now you lose Judge, which from what I've read, I got a feeling this is going to be a bad injury. Yeah, you look at the Halos. Obviously, Matt Harvey hasn't been good. He had a great start though in his first outing. Ever since then, he's been a mess. Why is this line a pick 'em? Basically, still the Yankees, still J Happ. I don't know. I kind of like the Angels in this game. That middle lineup starting to do some good things. Luke Roy's been hitting the ball. You're getting some decent things out of Brian Goodwin down at the bottom of the lineup. I kind of like the Angels in this game. Is it even the Yankees at this point? Good point. No, it isn't actually. It's not the Yankees at all. It's the old Yankees. It's not the old Yankees. It's not the team last year. This team is a shell of what we know what the Yankees are. Just so many injuries right now. If you have any questions, feel free to send them in. And we will have a draft show a little bit later. I will have plenty of props, so make sure you check out the show for that. I'll put that out a little bit later. Do I like Raquel Armstead from Temple? Yeah, I do like Raquel Armstead. I think he's kind of a guy that you're starting to see a little bit as maybe a sleeper. People are starting to kind of think of that about him a little bit. I think he's probably, probably a 4th or 5th round pick. Definitely really good size. I mean, big kid, bruising kid, 220, strong kid. Did a good amount of reps at the combine. Actually quite fast for as big as he is. He's kind of that kind of bruising type of player, which Temple's had over the years. They've had the guys like Bernard Pierce, the tough kind of runners that are fearless. They're going to hit you. I think he's a thick kid. I like what I see out of Raquel Armstead. One thing you're not going to get out of him, he's really just a running back. He gives you nothing out of the backfield from a pass catching perspective. But yeah, I think from like to get short yardage and things like that, I definitely think he's a great player, and I definitely think he's got the ability to to be a pretty good running back. I think he's a backup. I don't think he's a starter in this league, but he comes out of that area that's had some real success. You look at Millville, where Rick Armstead's from. I mean, you look at that South Jersey kind of contingent. Bernard Pierce is from South Jersey. Obviously, Corey Clement. We've seen a lot of guys. Armstead. A lot of these guys are from the area. So I definitely think he's a guy that I have some interest in. Probably in the 4th round. What about Henderson? I know who you're talking about from Memphis. We're waiting for Andrew McGinnis here. He should be joining us any minute. Darrell Henderson, you talk about a real bruiser. Darrell Henderson played at Memphis. I think he's definitely got the ability to be some kind of starter. I'd probably say he's a 3rd round pick. Definitely can hit a home run if he needs to. Another guy that, I still think's a little raw, but he's really fast for what he is, 4.49, quite fast. But we'll get back to the draft in just a little bit. Keep the questions coming. We'll get to them in just a little bit. Andrew McGinnis is going to join us, and he's here from sportsmemo.com. Andrew, our resident hockey expert. Andrew, how you doing?
Good, thanks, Jeff. How are you?
Doing very well. Thanks for coming on. We will talk all sorts of stuff here coming up. Want to start with the NHL. Only 2 games tonight. We have Dallas and Nashville. 2 good games, though. Dallas and Nashville. Then we have Carolina and the Capitals. Capitals, obviously, the defending Stanley Cup champions. 3-2, Washington up. Carolina, though, the favorite. We know what we've seen from that crowd. It's been a great atmosphere down there in Carolina. Do they even it up? What happens in this game, Andrew? Carolina laying about 120, 125. What do you like here, Andrew?
Yeah, I like the Washington Capitals, but more so I also like goals. I feel like, this Carolina team has been so good at home. They've proven to us in this series, when the series came back to Carolina, Jeff, that, not only are they good at home in the regular season, they are as well in the playoffs, and they can get the job done. But the fact of the matter is, I think that last game for the Washington Capitals was simply a statement game. I mean, it seems to me that every game that the Carolina Hurricanes have been involved in, it's been a very tough battle for them. It's been really close. Peter Mrazek has to have, stand on his head, play outstanding in nets. Whereas the Capitals team, anytime they've won, it's really been a dominant performance. Their last game winning at 6-0. So I feel like coming into this one, the experience level, coming off the momentum from last game, I feel like the Capitals get the job done. But, I've been saying this for a while, Jeff, and I'll go back to it. Elimination games often mean overs. Back in the day, Jeff, it did not used to mean that whatsoever with hockey. So again, we're seeing a 5.5+ price here. I look to see some goals, and I didn't hit the last one I gave out on your show, but I'm going back to it here with 3rd period over 1.5 goals. Decent price here with -140. I feel like that's a decent spot there because I like that one more than the full game because again, it's an elimination game, so coaches will pull their goalies a lot earlier. Teams will be a lot more desperate late into the game. And I do want to say, since I have this light shining on me, I don't usually wear these glasses. I feel kind of douchey wearing them, but the lights in my room right now are insanely bright, and it's been bothering me all day, so that's why I have the sunglasses on.
Yeah, settle down, gambling god. Gambling god says glasses inside. Jesus. Yeah, look, again, I don't think Andrew's I think he's got, again, I was going to ask him about it. You got the Dave Koken look going on right now. But I had
just a couple, a little bit younger though, Jeff. Eh?
Right. Definitely a little younger for sure. And then that's no knock to Dave. I like Dave.
Oh, great guy. Yeah.
Dave's been on my show before. I've been on his. He's a good guy. I just know he's always wearing glasses, which I don't mind. I've been known to wear glasses inside. I know back in my, real Guido days, I used to wear sunglasses a lot inside. But yeah, Andrew's got a lighting problem. Settle down, gambling god. Quick comment here. Shout out to Simone checking in from Italy. Good stuff. Thanks for watching. Alex Wander, Elijah Holyfield. Yeah, he's a tough runner, real bruiser. Agreed. I think he's more of a 6th or 7th round pick, but we'll get back to the the draft in a little bit. I'm going to tell you what, Andrew. I'm going to go with the Hurricanes here. I think they even this series up. I think we go to 7. I like that home crowd down there. I actually do a radio call with a radio station down in Greenville, North Carolina, EC Radio, East Carolina Radio, and they were talking about how the crowd was, I think, the biggest they've ever had down there. I think Mrazek is going to stand on his head tonight. I like. Is Oshie still out, right?
Yes, yeah.
I think that's obviously another help here. I think we see 7 in this one. I think Washington will win this series, but I'm going to grab. I'm going to grab it here. I'm going to lay it with Carolina. I think they get the job done in this game. Nashville, Dallas. You got this one. Dallas at home, laying about 140. So you're laying a little bit here. Dallas can close it out tonight. Ben Bishop against Pekka Rinne. Public loves Dallas tonight. A lot of bettors coming in on the Stars. What do you think here with Nashville, Dallas?
I mean, Jeff, I know you've been following the NHL more than I've known you to over the past couple of years. You've known it more than me as well. This has been the most wacky playoffs that I've seen in a long, long time. I mean, this is the most wide open NHL that I've seen in my whole lifetime. I can't believe what we're seeing here. I mean, Jeff, we've got Tampa Bay out, we've got Calgary out, we've got Winnipeg knocked out, we've got Pittsburgh knocked out. These are a lot of mainstream teams getting knocked out, not just number 1 seeds, but as far as ratings goes, it's probably not really the best. But again, it's what I always say for the league is that it's so nice to see that skill disparity across every team, because as we're going to talk about in a few minutes here, the NBA series are going pretty much as predicted. The reason why I'm saying this is because it's time for people to turn their attention on Dallas. And I think rightfully so, Jeff, the public is liking Dallas. Their best players, this is going to sound very cliche and corny, but their best players are outplaying Nashville's best players, plain and simple. And I think that Nashville's putting far too much pressure on Pekka Rinne, and you just can't do that if you want to win a series. Plain and simple. Goaltending is a huge key throughout the regular season, especially in the playoffs. So is having a great decor like the Nashville Predators do. But when you've got certain guys that aren't stepping up like they usually can, when Philip Forsberg's the only guy making a difference for your team, Arvidsson's really been missing, Turris has been missing, Bonino. I mean, Coach Laviolette might as well sit Kyle Turris. He might as well start scratching certain players because we're not seeing enough out of them. Whereas, I don't know if you remember this earlier in the year, Jeff, but the management, like one of the owners of the Dallas Stars, called out Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin, 2 top players for their lack of play and their lack of leadership on that team. And moral of the story, he pretty much just can't. Those players caught fire right after he did that, put them on blast. So I do think that Dallas gets the job done. I don't know whether or not it's going to be in this one or the next game. So I'm staying off it, to be quite honest with you. I'm not going to force any play really on this game, but I will say we're seeing a 5 as the total. And after everything I just told you about that last game, about elimination games, going over, blah, 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 I really think realistically in this one, Nashville, we got to send out a search party for their offense. I feel like it's going to be a 2-1 game, 3-1. I can't see a lot of goals. I think, it's a 5. Right? How often do we see a 5, Jeff, in hockey, But I feel like we'll see a lower scoring game.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, you're just kind of seeing as you said, kind of an advisory party out there looking for Nashville. They haven't played very well, not scoring a ton. Good point. So, Andrew, avoiding this game, give us your play one more time for Carolina. What do you like in that one, Carolina?
I like the over a lot in that game. Right. I really do like it, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be out on this show with you tomorrow, Jeff. So I do want to give it out right now, and for all of your viewers here checking this out.
Why don't you give it out? Because I'll be at the Sixer game. I'll be going down there for the game, so I won't be on tomorrow. So yeah, why don't you guys, everyone, listen up? Give this one out now.
So this is going to be a big play for me. One of my biggest bets probably of the playoffs. And usually I'm very, 1 unit per game, but I'm looking at the over 5.5 in the Boston Toronto series. This Toronto Maple Leafs team, Jeff, has had so many chances to close out the series. They're back in Toronto for Game 6. They had the Bruins just where they wanted them. And if there's been a series that's been zigzag theory, it's been this one. But I'm telling you, this team coming back to Boston, the Bruins got to be feeling good right now. They got to be feeling great. They got their star players playing well. Ever since game one, we haven't really seen much out of Tavares. We haven't seen much out of Nylander. We haven't seen much out of Marner. And when it comes down to it, as much as I'm the biggest advocator and preacher of secondary scoring, you need your best guys to score. You need your best players to be your best guys. It's plain and simple. And they have not been there for the Toronto Maple Leafs. However, I do feel like we're seeing a 5.5 the past couple of games as a total. And it's a huge mistake, Jeff. It's a huge mistake for these bookmakers. I understand they believe that the Leafs are going to come in and try and absolutely lock things down defensively. But you got to look at what this Boston Bruins team is capable of doing during the regular season against this team. I believe it was 80% of the matchups in the past few years of these two teams regular season went over the total, and in the playoffs, we're now seeing a 5.5. It doesn't make any sense. Confuses me, Jeff. I recommend everybody right now, don't wait till tomorrow. Hop on that over 5.5. We're going to see plenty of goals. Whether or not it's going to be early or late into the game, that's far too low. It should be a 6, not a 5.5. That is my favorite play so far of the playoffs, and I'm happy to give it out on your show.
How about that play of the day for Andrew McGinnis? The day before the game, over in the Bruins and the Maple Leaf game. I've been involved with that series a few times. Thanks to everyone for listening. I want to thank everybody. Look, it's not easy. I know people think I'm just a college basketball handicapper, and I did pretty well with the NFL and kind of the fall sports. But it's nice to have a good group of people hanging on and watching the show throughout the spring and summer months. I do have some real good things on the card coming up. So keep watching. Try to bring you on some good people to talk about sports and to get after it. We're kind of jumping around here. We're talking NHL. We're throwing in some draft things. We got the NBA coming up. A couple of comments here. Big Man, what do you think about Quinnen Williams? Is a good fit for the Raiders? Yeah, that's who I have the Raiders taking at 4. I think they need Quinnen Williams on that defensive line. There's just not a ton of a road grader type of player up front that can stop the run, can get to the quarterback. Quinnen Williams. The only concern I have with Quinnen Williams is I think he's going to struggle at times keeping his weight up. He's only around 300 pounds, which, again, I mean, you obviously see a smart, much more svelte player this time, this kind of, NFL. But, to be down in the trenches, you're going to have to play with some big boys up front on the other line. Quinnen Williams, very fast. I think he's a Pro Bowl type of player. I think that's one of the only knocks on him. He's a real smart player, diagnoses plays before they happen, quick, as I said, a good feet. I think he's terrific. I think he's just what they need kind of in the middle of that line. If Arden Key and him can both play at the level you want them to, you throw in Maurice Hurst, you get him healthy, that's all of a sudden a pretty young, really good defensive line. I think Quinnen Williams would fit just perfectly there. What do I think about the Astros tonight? I'm not running to the win it a bet on the Astros right now. Again, I'm kind of tiptoeing around MLB, 1 or 2 plays, waiting to see some stuff kind of magnify, and then we'll get back into the MLB. Well, the Bucks covered tonight. Detroit covered a lot at home this year, but that's regular season, and this is the Bucks. Let's get to some NBA, Andrew.
Sure.
Want to go over this series. We have obviously a closeout game here. We actually have 2 closeout games here. With the Bucks and Pistons. Look, you look at this series, Andrew. I mean, it really hasn't been competitive at all. I mean, I think we all kind of knew, and if you followed this series, I think we all kind of knew that Detroit was going to struggle in this series. I mean, it's just that simple. They had Blake Griffin, no Blake Griffin for the first 2 games, had major issues. You look at defensively, they've had no success in this series. I mean, they've given up 110 or more points in every game. But I'll tell you one thing of where I would go in this game. This is one of the highest spreads in any playoff game. I think the highest spread in any playoff game was 13.5. You're approaching, a record here. And while I do think the Bucks will win, I'm really not interested in taking the Pistons. This is really saying that in Milwaukee would probably be like an 18-point favorite, which is quite amazing. I'm actually going to look over the number here, Andrew. I think with getting Blake Griffin back, I definitely think that was obviously big. He scored 27 points. He offered them a little bit of scoring. I'm willing to think they can push the 105, 107 mark. We've seen the Bucks. I mean, I don't think any reason they don't push 120 here. Defensively, I just don't think the Bucks have any issues, and they haven't had any issues against the Pistons. I'm going to go over the number in this game. What do you think about Bucks and Pistons?
Yeah, no, I can't really disagree with that. I feel like as far as Blake Griffin being out there, it's an obvious statement, Jeff, but it spreads the floor. When you have a superstar out there, a guy that can lead the team, it creates opportunities for other people. And unfortunately, with basketball these days, that's what it really has come to. Isolation ball, having a few guys that really carry the momentum, and then everybody else, the spot-up shooters on the perimeter, kind of waiting for it to come to them. But Jeff, I can't believe I'm saying this to you, and a lot of people will say I hate big spreads, I hate double-digit spreads. I think the Bucks get it done. I think they close the series out on a bang. But I'd prefer to take the first half number, and I feel like that's a lot better opportunity. I feel like this team doesn't take long to get going. This team doesn't wait to get going, and I think people really underestimate the depth that this team has, because all we hear about is Antetokounmpo and Middleton and stuff like that. But there's a lot more guys to get going, and that coaching staff feels very comfortable, putting the bench in and leaving them out there. I know a lot of people, being Canadian, a lot of people talk so highly about the Toronto Raptors bench. But I think what makes this Bucks team so great is that they don't ever have to worry about letting up. They're consistently pouring in buckets, and for that reason, I do like the full game spread, but I'm going to be making a bet personally on the first half. I like that a lot. I feel like they'll get going early. But, as far as that total goes, Jeff, I got to ask you, do you feel like that, that's a negative factor for Detroit? Like, obviously, we know how Milwaukee plays. When you're making that over bet, is your side in your head kind of thinking it's because Milwaukee's going to, run the score up and Detroit's going to have to match them? Or is Detroit going to like that tempo as well?
I just really am capping on getting Griffin back. He was in one game, he was the leading scorer for them. He put in 27. I think with him in the game, I think they surely hit 100. I think they're good enough offensively to find a way. You look at that game the other night, and they only shot 38.5%. They missed 6 free throws. They could have scored more. I definitely think they get to 105. I do. I think if they get to 105, this game goes over. I think it's like a 122, 105 type of game. Again, I don't think it's 141, 131, but I definitely think the Pistons can get to 105. Now that Griffin's back, Griffin can give them, 25. They were struggling to hit 90 without Blake Griffin. Adding him in, and they didn't shoot the ball well, and they still scored 103. Again, listen, I don't think you need a ton of I don't think you need to sit here for hours on end capping these games. I think you kind of just go with what makes sense, what's worked. I don't think the Pistons can stop the Bucks. I just don't. You mentioned they don't let up, and I don't think they're going to let up here. And I don't even think they're going to need to put in a ton of work to get to 120. I think this is, again, 122, 105, 124, 107. 120, 107, something like that. I'll go over the number. Again, not a crazy high total. I can get 219.5 right now at Bookmaker. For the sake of the show, 220 is the prevailing number, and that's what I can get at Bet Online. So I'll go over 220. You're going first half. What's the first half? I didn't even look at that number.
7.5. It's been moving around. We'll see what the best number is right now. Here, I'll pull it up. But the thing is, I wanted to ask you, Jeff, because I find it so hard in NBA. Certain teams, like you said, the Bucks don't let up and stuff like that. But a lot of people realize, and the public and people that don't consistently look at these numbers on a daily basis, they'll look at a team like the Warriors laying a massive number and say, okay, yeah, that's the Warriors. They're going to get the job done. But sometimes those teams are the worst against the spread. So, are you ever nervous to take big spreads, or do you have a rule about that? Are you more of a short favorite, underdog type guy? Do you think about that stuff?
No, because I've talked before in the regular season. I really don't. To me, it's only about the number, and it's about who bets what team and how many people are betting what team. I've talked candidly before, and I've actually gotten into fights with people about it. Look, I respect anyone that caps the NBA, and if they do well capping it, I wish them a ton of respect. I just personally, a lot of the time, other than the playoffs, I really don't look at much with particularly in the regular season, like what the number is, or I really just mainly look at the number. Is it make sense? Is the number going the right way? And I kind of just run it that way. But again, I think anytime you're in the playoffs and you have a number of this size, it's hard to not take the dog. But I mean, at what point is in this series Detroit showed that they can hang in this game within 15? I just haven't really seen it. I will say this, interesting question here. If they're up, though, don't you think the Bucks will rest players? No, because they're going to sweep. They're going to sit around anyway. It's not like this is game 7, and if they're up 20, they're going to sit people. They're going to have plenty of time to rest. I don't think there's going to be any reason to rest in this game. Somebody give me 2 MLB plays, and I'm straight. Well, I gave you
the over in the Yankees game.
There you go. That's a good one. I like the Pirates. I'm good with that. Pirates first 5, whatever you want to do.
Pirates have been good, Jeff.
No, they have.
As you know, MLB is not one of my bigger sports, but to be honest, I find sometimes as far as handicapping goes, I grew up and I've always been a follower of NHL and NBA, but I've over the past several years been learning more about MLB, and I find that MLB I've had a lot of great success in because I'm a little less biased, and I'm not saying I'm biased when I do my handicapping, but I mean I have no real favorite teams, I have no real favorite players. I'm just strictly basing off the numbers and the stats and what I've seen, and gotta love what the Pirates are doing so far, Jeff.
No, they're playing well. They have the best team ERA in baseball. Great pitching staff right now, doing some good things. All right, other game here: Houston and Utah. Houston laying 3, total 214.5. I first want to discuss quickly. I've talked about this before on Twitter, candidly, and I got a lot of agreements here. I have a pretty interesting opinion. Some things I say are quite off the wall. Some of the things I say are quite good. One of the things that hasn't been good recently is the fact that I have to think that AJ Soprano was actually quite a good character on Sopranos, and sometimes I will talk about on why I think he was a good character. A lot of people don't agree with my comment there, but one comment that I did have a lot of people agree with is the fact that the Utah Jazz's home uniforms are some of the worst uniforms in the history of uniforms. Now, Andrew, you know how I knew this also is because the girl that I'm with now, and I've talked candidly, the girl that I'm with now is way out of my league. I've talked about it. I'm definitely
– Don't say that, man.
No, I'm going to say it because I believe she is everything great with the word woman. She's terrific, just a terrific person.
Happy for you.
Thank you. And we were actually watching the other day, and I showed her the uniforms of Utah, and she found them to be horrendous. And I was quite surprised because, I thought I was the only one that thought that way. And then I started talking about it on Twitter, and I remember talking about it a while ago. Do you agree that they make absolutely no sense? Like, I don't understand the uniform color at all. Like, Utah is not like desert. Like, I feel like the Suns – like, I can understand them wearing those uniforms because, like, they kind of have the colorway and, like, they kind of make sense because a lot of the time some of the uniform colors have to do with kind of the climate that you live in. Like Miami, They have, like, those jerseys that look like, fire or whatever. But, like, you look at the Jazz, it's like, I didn't know that the Jazz had, like, really, like, woodsy, deserty areas. Like, why do the Jazz wear red and orange? Makes no sense. But in this game itself, you look over the last 3 years, Andrew, when facing elimination, the team facing elimination, 3-12 straight up in those games. And I have to ask, why on earth right now, and I'm making this real clear, a lot of the time I like to get down with these mangy mutt type of dogs, but I see no legitimate reason to back the Jazz. I felt like in this game, they're quite deflated. I mean, they put a lot into that game the other night. James Harden was 3 for 20. They got literally everything they could have asked for, and they still lost the game. I kind of equate it a lot to tomorrow's game with the Nets and Sixers. I think the Nets are done. I just think they're deflated. I don't know how the Jazz get up after that game. I thought that was the game for them, and they weren't able to do it. I like the Rockets tonight. I'm not playing this just because I feel like, the whole world's going to be on the Rockets, and I just, if I'm going to play it, I wanted to get it early, but what do you think here? Do you agree here? It's hard to get off the mat if you're the Jazz.
Jeff, that's the thing, man. I really look at it and I was saying to myself, how can James Harden have that kind of start that he had to that game? How can Chris Paul be a little iffy to start the game? And yet it's still not even that close. How can that happen? And everybody says, James Harden hogs the ball, he takes so many shots a game. But people don't realize the supporting cast he actually does have around them, and when they're all clicking, how friggin' dangerous of a team they are. man, like, why is the line? I got to ask back to you. Why is the number at what it is for this game? Like, why do you think it is what it is? Because what adjustments are the Jazz going to make to try and save themselves in this series? I think that they got to slow things down and keep the tempo a little bit slower. But the fact is, they're going to have to compete with that fast tempo the Rockets create. You're unable to slow the tempo down. You have to go off what Houston is doing because they get so many possessions. I feel like Houston is operating under a 15-second shot clock, Jeff. You watch college, you see how long those guys take to set up their plays. Houston could probably run, 3 different sets by the time Duke's running one. And that's Duke even. I feel like Houston creates chances so fast and Utah doesn't even know where it's coming from. And the inexperience from some of the younger guys on Utah is really biting them in the ass.
Yeah, I know Donovan Mitchell's, he scored 21 points a game in this series, but it seems at times he's not looked great. They just really haven't gotten much out of their bench either. They're not scoring points. It's really just kind of a mess. I don't know how they picked themselves up off the floor after the other night. I just don't. All right, someone's asking about why did Portland call themselves Rip City? I guess back in 1971, they were playing the Lakers, and they were getting killed. Somebody shot an ill-advised shot from nearly half court. The guy made it, and the play-by-play announcer said, "Rip City, all right." And they've called themselves that from that. Pretty stupid story, for sure. I will say, though, I got to tell you, and I might get shit for this, but I don't think there's any better. I mean, other than maybe Harden and I guess you throw Westbrook in there, and I know people will say Stephen Curry. Look, I take Damian Lillard over a lot of these guys. Damian Lillard is unbelievable. I mean, he is terrific. He's one of those guys that, a lot of the time when you talk about NBA, would I pay to watch these guys? I would pay to watch Damian Lillard. I think he's a special player. I think if they had Nurkic, it wouldn't surprise me if they went to the finals. I think they can get to the Western Conference Finals for sure. I really like what I'm seeing out of Portland. They have really turned it around in this series against OKC, which on the surface wasn't a great matchup for them, but they've hit them in the mouth and have been terrific. Yeah. McCollum and Lillard are as good as it gets.
I think what makes Lillard so good, Jeff, is that he doesn't really have that one signature move. He can really hurt you in so many ways, and that's what makes him great. That's what I love about basketball, man. Like, I don't like to see players that can do the exact same thing over and over and over again. Sure, you can be great at one thing and have your signature step back, have your fadeaway. But when I watch Lillard, no matter how he's being defended, he can always come up with a way. He's very creative. He likes to talk a little smack, but for the most part, he's pretty humble, and he can always create for himself. So I also wanted to say, though, Jeff, because I said to you, I wonder why the line is like this for the Houston game. I feel like it's notable to mention Eric Gordon, 12 points, PJ Tucker with 12 points, Capella with 11, Harden 22, Chris Paul 18, Austin Rivers 11. That sounds like a pretty spread out offense to me. For a lot of people that are haters that are always saying it's just Harden pouring in 30 a game, that sounds pretty spread out to me. That sounds like an ideal team spreading the ball around.
No, I totally agree with you. And the difference with the Jazz is they're not doing that, and their bench has been horrific. So, I couldn't agree more. I think the Rockets are definitely the play. It's just definitely a very trendy side. I think 85% of the money and bets are on the Rockets. Quickly before we kind of look to wrap it up, we say goodbye to Andrew Guinness. Andrew, I've talked to Ian Cameron about this, and again, I'm going to quickly point this out because it's really been beaten into the ground. This Jeopardy guy. He's like really smart for sure. But how many fucking times do I got to see a story about this? I mean, VSiN's a great place and everything, but how many fucking times are they going to talk about this guy? We get it. And I saw Scott Van Pelt's going to interview him tonight. What would happen if he loses tonight? Which would be quite interesting. I guess they already know he's going to win. Is that what they're saying here? Because Van Pelt's interviewing him tonight at midnight. So that'd be kind of weird if he ended up losing before he went on with Van Pelt. But listen, I'm going to further make this clear. If you let me play this guy, I think I could do decent. I wouldn't win, I don't think, but I'm way smarter than people think. I think I could do quite well with this guy. I know I'm crazy. People might think I'm totally nuts, but I have a feeling I could do much better than most of the people that have been on there against him.
I mean, from what I've seen, back in the day, last year, watching you on Gabe's show and different places, I know that you like that kind of stuff. You like trivia type things, Jeff. So obviously, it's a good skill to have. The thing that I am the most amused by, Jeff, is the fact that it's always it's so many random things you have to know. Like, you cannot read a book on how to win Jeopardy. You can't.
No,
it's so many different things you have to know.
The thing about Jeopardy is, like there are certain things, like, I will say this: if I went on Jeopardy and got like a lot of medieval shit and like certain word games and shit like that, I probably wouldn't do that well. But like if I got like a lot of history and somewhat newer history and like maybe a sports category or something, I could hold my own, I think. Because like a lot of like, whether it's presidents or historical events, like pretty much everything Revolutionary War until now, I feel like I could do decently well with. Pop culture, geography. But again, you don't know what the categories are. So you're right. You do have to kind of be very, very much able to do all sorts of things. But certain literature and stuff I'd probably struggle with as well. But all right, Andrew, good stuff as always. Get that light fixed. And thanks for coming on. I'm sure we'll talk to you later in the week. Again, your favorite play tomorrow night is Boston and Toronto over.
Over 5.5. Yeah, for sure.
Very good.
No, thanks as always for having me, Jeff. Someone did comment on the chat box about the Oilers general management situation.
Yep.
I just wanted to say really quickly that whoever they do hire, it better be a patient person. It better be someone that's not trying to rebuild that team all at once, because I've never seen someone ruin a whole team. Hey, Jeff, you should seriously look it up and look at to see what Peter Strelly did to that team. It's awful. It's awful. He took one of the most promising teams. You don't know how many first round picks Edmonton had, and all of a sudden he ruined it. He traded away Taylor Hall, one of their best players, for a defenseman that didn't turn out to be very good. He traded away Eberle. He's got McDavid on a team right now who is, probably the number one player in the entire world, and he has no support around him whatsoever. They waited far too long to trade him. Whoever asked that question to me, it's one for another day, because I could sit here and rant about it all day about who needs to be that GM. But Peter Strelly is by far the worst general manager in NHL history for Boston and for Edmonton. But that's for another day. Jeff, good to be on here with you. I'd love to see you on Jeopardy sometime. I will say before I head out, Jeff, it's definitely different, man, when you're in there in person, I bet. I'm always telling my family that. And, I'm still getting more, as much as you can probably tell, like the chat and stuff like that. I'm different on here as I'm getting more comfortable, and as I do more of these with you, I'll get more comfortable and feel good in my own skin talking about my opinions. But I feel like it's different being out there too on Jeopardy. You got the crowd there, you got Alex Trebek there. You're not sitting at home on your couch anymore answering the questions. You're right there in real time.
I think I think it's a good point by you. I think the toughest thing and I think one of the reasons this guy's doing so well a lot of the time is he kind of knows how to run that buzzer thing. That buzzer thing is, a lot of these people probably know the answers. They have trouble.
That's funny.
They have trouble, hitting it, in enough time. So I don't know. I think it's interesting for sure. Good stuff, Andrew. We'll talk to you later in the week. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Jeff. Enjoy the game tomorrow.
All right. Yeah, thanks, buddy. Take it easy. Andrew McGinnis joining us, friend of the show. Good to have Andrew. Always great NHL stuff and good NBA as well. AJ Brown looking very good. Number one wide receiver prospect. Not the number one, but I do think he's top three. Terrific slot receiver. Terrific from a build perspective. We've all seen DK Metcalf, but AJ Brown is pretty lean himself. Very compact frame. Look, very next level. Terrific slot receiver. Good route runner. Actually, he's an elite route runner, really. This is a kid that was a baseball player. Was drafted, I believe, by the San Diego Padres. I think the only thing that concerns me a bit with him, and this has come out on him a little bit, is, he didn't have the same motor against some of his better competition, the LSUs, the Alabamas. He's not overly fast. Pushed a 4.5 or so at the combine, which again, for people like me, that's incredibly fast. But in the scheme of things, when you're looking at 40 times, it's great. It's not, it's not the best. Good, not great. But I think he's a very good slot receiver in the NFL. I've heard kind of a Juju Smith-Schuster type of guy. Look, I would love to have him in Philadelphia, kind of as an heir apparent to Deshaun Jackson or like a Nelson Aguilar. But and again, I think the Philadelphia Eagles will need a receiver. Question is when they do it. I don't think it's going to be the first round, but look, I got a feeling if he's there, I think they'll consider it. But yeah, I think he's got way more positives than negatives for sure. Is he the number one receiver? No, but I think he's definitely top 3. We also have to remember too. I mean, he didn't really have a ton of coaching around him. If we remember, Hugh Freeze left Ole Miss. Well, he didn't leave. He was removed. And then Matt Luke. I mean, there was never really any oversight there at Ole Miss. And that's one of the reasons I thought that Shea Patterson coming to Michigan would have a lot of success. Some of these guys don't have great coaching around them. Coaching is so important in college, and I've talked about that ad nauseum. I like A.J. Brown a lot. I think I have him going to the Giants, which I think would make a lot of sense. Keep your eyes out for Stevenson and Lopez in boxing. Yeah, hey, listen, I don't think you're telling us anything we don't know. Shakur Stevenson's been, I think, a guy a lot of people have longed to watch for a long time. Teofimo Lopez, same way. What else do we have here? Yep, thanks for coming on, McGinnis. Always appreciate that. If you have any other comments or questions, feel free to send those in. We will look towards wrapping up the show. Weren't able to get Peter Loshak. I know Peter's traveling at this time some days. He's not able to get back in time. So we'll look to maybe get him on Thursday or Wednesday. We'll have Ian Cameron on Wednesday as well. We'll get him on. I know people enjoy seeing Bobano on. So we'll get him on as well. Keep in mind, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. This is always your one-stop shop for uncensored sports betting talk. Bud Crawford doesn't beat Errol Spence. I disagree. I think Bud Crawford's the best fighter in the world. So I'm going to disagree politely with you on that one. All right, guys, that'll be it for me. You all have a great day. Feel free to reach out to me on Twitter if you have any comments, concerns, or questions. And look out later for the NFL draft preview. We'll have all sorts of props, all sorts of bets to make, and it should be fun. Make sure you check that out. It'll be on YouTube tonight. Everyone have a great night. Thanks for watching. As always, I appreciate it. You all have a great night.